Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Vamsacharya Stutu Shri Śrīmad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki, Gaura Premanande, All Glory Sama devotees, Hare Krishna, All Glory Sama devotees, Hare Krishna, All Glory Sama devotees, Hare Krishna, All Glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga and Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so today we are reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 3, entitled The Liberation from the Illusory Energy, text number 44. Parokshavado Vedoyam Balanam Anusasanam Kama Mokshaya Kamani Vidhatehi Agadam Yata Parokshavado Vedoyam Balanam Anusasanam Kama Mokshaya Kamani Vedatihi Agadam Yata Parokshavado Vedoyam Balanam Anusasanam Kama Mokshaya Kamani Vidhatehi Agadam Yata. What to do? Rokshavado Vedoyam Alona Manasasanam Kama Mokshaya kamani. Okay. Let me just forgot to say the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, Parokshavada. Describing a situation as something else in order to disguise its real nature. Vedaha, Vedas. Ayam, these. Balanam, of childlike persons. Anushashanam, guidance. Kama mokshaya, for liberation from material activities. Karmani, material activities. Vidhate, prescribe. He, indeed. Agadam, a medicine. Yata, just as. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada. Childish and foolish people are attached to materialistic, fruitive activities. Although the actual goal of life is to become free from such activities. Therefore, the Vedic injunctions indirectly lead one to the path of ultimate liberation by first prescribing fruitive religious activities. Just as a father promises his child candy so that the child will take his medicine. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavarjuna. The Vedas apparently offer fruitive results within the three modes of material nature. Those who perform ritualistic ceremonies or austerities in the mode of goodness are offered the chance for promotion to the higher planetary systems called Swargaloka. Asnanti Devyan Devi Devi Bhogan. Similarly, those who perform karma kant or fruitive religious activities in the mode of passion are allowed to become great rulers or wealthy men on earth and enjoy great prestige and earthly power. But as stated in Manu Samhita, Praviti Esha Bhatunam Nivitis tu Mahaphala. Although fruitive religious activities are very much popular among the conditioned souls, the actual perfection of life is achieved when one gives up all fruitive endeavor. If a father tells his child, "You must take this medicine by my order," the child may become fearful and rebellious and reject the medicine. Therefore, the father entices his child by saying, "I am going to give you a delicious piece of candy, but if you want this candy, first take a little bit of medicine, and then you can have the candy." Such indirect persuasion is called parokshavad, or an indirect description that conceals the actual purpose. The father presents his proposal to the child as if the ultimate goal were to receive the candy, and only a minor condition must be fulfilled to receive it. Actually, however, the father's goal is to administer the medicine to the child and cure him of his disease, thus describing the primary purpose indirectly and concealing it with the secondary proposal is called parokshavad, or indirect persuasion. Since the great majority of conditioned souls are addicted to sense gratification, the Vedic karma-kand rituals offer them a chance to become free from temporary materialistic sense gratification by making them greedy for fruitive Vedic results, such as promotion to heaven or a powerful ruling position on earth. In all Vedic rituals, Vishnu is worshipped, and thus one is gradually promoted to understanding that one's actual self-interest is to surrender to Vishnu. Natu vidum svavagatam hi Vishnu. Such an indirect method is prescribed for Balanam, those who are childish or foolish. An intelligent person can immediately understand by direct analysis the actual purpose of Vedic literature as described by the Lord himself. Vedascha sevya aham eva vedya. All Vedic knowledge ultimately aims at achieving the shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without such shelter, one must rotate within the 8,400,000 species offered by the illusory energy of the Lord. Ordinary material vision, either through gross sense perception or the subtle perception of rational induction, always yields imperfect knowledge, distorted by the desire for illusory material enjoyment. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that the cultivation of impersonal self-realization is also a disturbance to the conditioned souls, since the impersonal speculative process is an artificial attempt to become completely formless. Such an attempt is not at all in accord with the proper judgment of the Vedas, which is described in Bhagavad Gita, Vedas chasavyaham eva vedya. In Lord Chaitanya's movement, there is no need to childishly pursue fruitive material results and gradually be dragged to actual knowledge. According to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam, Kalo nasti eva gati anyata. In Kali Yuga, life is very short, and people are generally undisciplined, manya, misguided, samanda mataya, and overwhelmed by unfavorable results of their previous activities, manya bhagya. Thus their minds are never peaceful, upadruta, and their very brief lifespan vitiates the possibility of their gradually progressing through the path of Vedic ritualistic activities. Therefore the only hope is to chant the holy name of the Lord, Harinam. In Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 12.351 is stated, Kale dosha nijaya rajan astihi eko mahan guna kirtat eva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. In Kali Yuga, it is an ocean of hypocrisy and pollution. In Kali Yuga, all natural elements are polluted, such as water, earth, sky, mind, intelligence, and ego. The only auspicious aspect of this fallen age is the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord, Astihi Eko Mahan Guna. Simply by the delightful process of Krishna Kirtan, one is freed from his connection to this fallen age, Mukta Sangha, and goes back home, back to Godhead, Param Vrajet. Sometimes the preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement also use the paroksha or indirect method of persuasion, offering a nice transcendental sweet to the conditioned soul to entice him to come to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, is Kavalya Ananda Kanda, simply blissful. But by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even one who is indirectly attracted to the Krishna conscious movement achieves very quickly the perfection of life and goes home back to Godhead. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana-shalakaya Chakshru Umnitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stavitam Bhutale Swayam Rabhakadam Vayam Vedanti Swapadantikam Vanchakavadurubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Petitanam Bhavanavyo Vaishnavo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yes, so this purport, this verse is describing paroksha-vad, the indirect method of preaching, or what they call bridge preaching. So Prabhupada described 4 principles to describe Krishna consciousness. He said, preaching is the essence, books are the basis, utility is the principle, and purity is the force. So we see that, we see in ISKCON, we see many varieties of Parokshavad. We see even in India, many of the students, they are attracted and they join this course, and they're thinking this is a self-development course. They're not knowing this is actually a Bhagavad Gita course, isn't it? And in that way, we're giving them some candy, some indirect thing, and we're attracting them, and then we are giving them the real thing. Even myself, I joined through the Bhakti Yoga Society, and there were many attractive women joining this Bhakti Yoga Society. So I thought, this looks like good society for me. So Krishna tricked me. And here I am. So in the West also, they employ different techniques. You know, I know in New Zealand, Australia, they use a lot of yoga. And also Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he also in New York, he has some preaching center, and the bottom floor is Hatha Yoga, and then the next floor is Jnana Yoga, and then top floor is Bhakti Yoga. So this way they are trying to allure people into Krishna consciousness. Even in Cape Town, you know, my main service was book distribution, but we were struggling to get people, and came inspired by Srimad Swami's preaching style. So we started something called the Yoga Lounge, where we'd have people come do yoga, and then there'd be some meal afterwards, and then in the meal we kind of chat to them, and yeah, but never made any devotees through that program. You know, I've seen people, all they wanted was yoga, that was it. They weren't really interested in anything else. But in Johannesburg, there was this, they're also doing this yoga thing, and there was this Mataji from New Zealand, and she was quite good at connecting with the students, and she would get them to come for Mangal Arati, to see the process. And so I think if you're the right kind of person, you can somehow make friends with the people and try to bring them closer. Like in this devotee in Cape Town, he started this little, he tried to do his own like little magazine, you know, where he would do some kind of write-ups about current events and things like that. And, you know, I was like, this is Maya, you know, who ordered this thing? This is not authorized. He's just doing his own thing. Because maybe a spiritual master authorized, I don't know. So I was not supporting him in his endeavors, but he would, you know, put a lot of work in to make this little, you know, this mini magazine. I think it was just maybe 2 pages. And, you know, and I was thinking, this guy, you know, he's in Maya. Why is he going? He should be distributing Prabhupada's books, you know. Why are you spending time making this magazine and distributing this little leaflet instead of doing Prabhupada's books? But then he gave his leaflet to one person, and they read it, and then that person came to the temple, and that person brought his friend who became a devotee. And if you see in the entourage of Indradumna Swami, there's one devotee who plays the trumpet. His name is Prem Kirtan Prabhu. He is from Cape Town, and he came through this devotee doing this magazine, this little leaflet thing. Of course, he gave up on his leaflet. It's too much work for him to do alone. But we can see sometimes, you know, things that we are skeptical about, sometimes they work, isn't it? So this Parokshavad, you know, sometimes it works. And then we have the other side. You know, in Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada did not appreciate doing these other indirect things. There's some point devotees started some kind of yoga thing, and he wrote some letter saying, no, we don't need this yoga thing. Here's one letter from Prabhupada to Lalit Kumar. He says, our presentation of Krishna consciousness must be always very bold. If we are king, we must act like king. The idea is we speak the truth, and those will hear who are intended to hear by being qualified or prepared. It is not that we should compromise to attract the mass. We are after the class. Yeah. So we can see that there's two sides to this thing, and some devotees are very opinionated about it. This any indirect preaching that is Maya, that we should stick to Prabhupada's process or Lord Chaitanya's direct process, chanting, dancing, feasting, book distribution. This is Maya, and sometimes devotees get into conflict over these things if they're very opinionated about it. So in regard to these kind of conflicts that we get in Krishna consciousness, with devotees have very strong opinions. His Holiness, when Vrindavan Prabhu was here, he talked about the mood of the servant, and he distilled these 3 points from His Holiness Radha Swami's teachings of practically how do we implement that mood of the servant. He said, 1, do not judge; 2, do not compare; and 3, do not take sides. Yeah. So that is his idea, that if we're being in the mood of the servant, being very opinionated about things is not always so favorable. Like even Bhagavad Gita, it says, even a wise man is bewildered in seeing action and inaction, and inaction in action. Which, even a wise man is not always clear what is the right and the wrong thing to do. Even Arjuna, the great devotee of Krishna, he is bewildered. Is it right? Should I fight? Should I not fight? So this is our condition in this material world, that we are in ignorance. We are born in ignorance. And so we don't always know what is the right thing to do. And of course the Guru is there to tell us what is the right thing to do, but at ISKCON we have many Gurus, and they have different opinions what is the right thing to do, isn't it? So we can't always say. So that's why it's best, not to have too strong opinions. And the example that he gave was this: there's some controversy in ISKCON about whether Lord Chaitanya should have a feather in his thing, and some devotees say no, because he is also a combined form Radha Krishna, he can have feather. And I said no, he is Lord Chaitanya, he should not have feather. And one group of devotees was like that, and another group of devotees was against it. And then a devotee asked Radha Swami, what should we do? And he said, if this group of devotees are doing it, you let them do like that. And this other devotee are dressing, you let them do like that. That is, so sometimes you just have to simply respect people's opinions, that maybe we don't always know. Because Krishna consciousness, it's a living process. The Ritviks, they want to destroy the parampara process. Although Prabhupada, he clearly, through so many books and all his lectures and all these things, what is he teaching? Parampara. The process is parampara. But through one misinterpreted conversation, one letter, they say, oh, no, Prabhupada suddenly changed his mind. Although in the thousands of years of Vedic tradition, no such thing as, posthumously giving initiation via a Ritvik. Then they suddenly, no, he's just going to suddenly just kill that process of parampara. We're going to have new idea, just based on misinterpretation of one conversation. The Krishna consciousness is not like that. There's a living tradition, and we have living gurus, and we have to adjust to time, place, and circumstance. Like in the 60s, 70s, a lot of people, there's the hippies, a lot of people were interested naturally in spirituality in one form or another. So we didn't need to worry about doing the indirect. If the direct is working, why are you going to waste time with indirect? So Prabhupada was like that. Why you waste time with indirect? If direct is working, that's better. Obviously through direct, you're getting people who are directly interested in Krishna consciousness. So why waste time with indirect if direct is working? But, times have changed. Times have changed. So if we want to attract people to Krishna consciousness, whether we do indirect or we do direct, if there's no purity, then nothing's going to work. If people come into the association of devotees and they're feeling like whoever is talking to them is a bit kind of puffed up, they're a bit arrogant, they don't really have the so many real spiritual potency, then they're not going to be attracted. Whether it's direct or indirect. So that's why it's important that in the association of devotees we cultivate that mood of the servant, humility, and that people, when they come into Krishna consciousness, they must feel that they're joining a family. They must feel that family kind of vibe. Jai Shri Nitai Gauranga Jai. Not that they feel like they're being bashed on the head by philosophy and they're being judged that, oh, you are so fallen, you should follow this and become elevated. And this is why we came to this material world, because we were not prepared to accept our position as a servant of the servant of Krishna. No, we wanted to compete with Krishna. Like Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami says this nice verse. He says that when the living entity is attracted by the material energy, which is separate from Krishna, he is overpowered by fear. Because he is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the material energy, his conception of life is reversed. In other words, instead of being the eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes Krishna's competitor. This is called viparusmriti, to nullify this mistake. One who is actually learned and advanced worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his spiritual master, worshipful deity, and source of life. He thus worships the Lord by the process of unalloyed devotional service. So that mood of competing with Krishna, this is the problem. That we want to compete with Krishna, we want to compete with the devotees, with each other, to establish who is the best, who is the Supreme Personality. So that is the problem. So people, if they feel that devotees are very soft-hearted, they feel that family vibe, then they get attracted. Like in Prabhupada's time, a lot of Prabhupada's disciples that in Prabhupada's presence, they felt like a real family kind of atmosphere in ISKCON. And a lot of them complained that now they don't feel that same atmosphere. Because in society, people are very lonely. Okay, is that better? Okay. Yeah, people are very lonely. They struggle to make relationships. Due to so much. And people are very hard-hearted also. Due to so much sinful activities. We do sinful activities. The heart becomes harder and harder. And then people can't relate to each other. People can't deal with each other nicely because there's so much, the heart is just covered by so much sinful activities. So when they come to Krishna consciousness, people need to feel that softness. That is what's going to attract them more than philosophy, Because some people are naturally philosophical, so they might be attracted, but they're fairly rare. Like when I first read Bhagavad Gita, I was like, wow, this is amazing philosophy. I was kind of like a computer nerd, and I was thinking this philosophy, this is like my programming, and I want to find the true philosophy. So I was looking at these different philosophies, Buddhism and things, and when I found the philosophy offered in Bhagavad Gita, I was like, wow, this is, it had everything that I liked about Christianity, everything I liked about Buddhism, and then other things that you just can't find anywhere else. And you just think there's just no way that a man could make this up. There's just no way that a person could create this just from their own minds. It was just too perfect. And then I thought, well, if I just explain this to other people, then they'll understand. I'll just explain it to them that, look, this is the best philosophy, so you should come and join us, So I thought, yeah, this is not going to be so difficult. But then when you go in book distribution and you try to explain to people that this is the best philosophy, it doesn't, it's not so easy, is it? Yeah, because not so many people are philosophically inclined. Yeah, so we have to attract them through purity, through feeling loved and feeling appreciated. Like these scientists, they did a study to find out why are kids in high school, why sometimes you get kids that are very popular, so they wanted to do a study to find out what is it that makes these kids very popular. And they checked, is it that they are very attractive, they're very beautiful, or is that they're very good at athletics, sports? Is it very intelligent? Are they good at academics? And the one metric they found was that the kids who are the most popular, the most well-liked, is because they had the longest list of people that they liked. Isn't it? So if we like others, they like us back. Is it? So we don't want to be popular, but we want people. If we are preaching and people like us, then they'll want to listen from us. They'll want to hear from us. And they're not going to like us if we don't like them. If they feel some kind of condescending attitude, some kind of thing, they're not going to like us. To like us, we have to like them. We have to appreciate them. Prabhupada called it fanning the flame. That they have some goodness is there. Otherwise, why are they coming into the association? Something is there. And we have to see, yes, that flame, although there's so much badness is there, they have so much bad habits, so many things are not right, but those bad habits, that's material, that's not real. That's fake, that's a maya, that's illusion. What's real is that little spark of goodness, that is the soul. That little spark of goodness we're seeing, that is the eternal soul. And that is what we have to see, and that is what we have to focus on, like the bee that is looking for the honey, and not the fly looking for the stool. So we have to focus on that little spark of goodness and fan the flame. That's what Prabhupada described, fanning the flame. That we really focus on that, and not just the intellectual, but level of the heart, that we really appreciate this person. And if we are deeply engrossed in appreciating ourselves, then it's not so easy to appreciate others. If we're deeply proud, very much enamored by all our own good qualities and our own saintliness and our own austerities like that, then we cannot really appreciate, and then we can't preach. That's why Shastra says the neophyte is useless for preaching. We can't preach. Why? Because the neophyte is proud. And when we're proud, we can't preach. We can't really appreciate others. And if people don't feel appreciated, then they're not going to want to hear from you. Yeah. So that is what we need to cultivate. And we see Lord Chaitanya when he went to Varanasi. Varanasi is the capital of Mayavad. And the head of these Mayavadis was Prakashananda Saraswati. And Lord Chaitanya went there with the big party, and he's chanting and dancing, and everyone's in ecstasy, and everyone is amazed. But these Mayavadi sannyasis, they're openly, publicly criticizing Lord Chaitanya, inimical, envious. They're saying this person is just a sentimentalist. This is not real spirituality. Real spirituality is studying Vedanta, philosophy. This is not real. This is all just fake nonsense. So Lord Chaitanya's devotees were greatly hurt by this blasphemy of Lord Chaitanya. And then one Maharashtrian Brahmana, he arranged a meeting at his house with these Mayavadi sannyasis and Lord Chaitanya. And when Lord Chaitanya came to the house, all the Mayavadi sannyasis are already seated on elevated seats to honor their position as great sannyasis. And Lord Chaitanya, he comes, and what does he do? He sits down on a low position where people put their shoes. And immediately these sannyasis are bewildered, because what is their culture? That I am Narayan. You are Narayan. Not that they're saying, I'm only Narayan. They're very liberal, saying, oh, you're also Narayan. Everyone is Narayan. But once they take sannyas, well, then they have made it. Then they really are Narayan, They even address each other. Oh, Narayan, Narayan. And here's Lord Chaitanya. Doesn't he get that he is Narayan? Why is he sitting in this lowly place? And then they say, no, come sit with us. There's no need to sit. He says, no, I'm a lowly sannyasi. I'm not on your level. He says, no, come. And he sits, and they ask him, why do you chant and dance like a sentimentalist? And he says, my spiritual master said that I am a great fool, that I'm not qualified to study Vedanta. That I should simply chant Hare Krishna. And when I chant Hare Krishna, I feel great ecstasy. And therefore this is my practice. And then, of course, he gets into a bit of philosophy with them, and explains to them that actually Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and quotes from Shastra, and completely defeats them. And they all become devotees. But first, he had to win their hearts with his pleasing words, with his humility. So in purport, Prabhupada says, in the verse it says, after hearing Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the Mayavadi sannyasis were moved. their minds changed, and thus they spoke with pleasing words. And Prabhupada says in the purport, therefore the original purpose of the Mayavadi sannyasis of Benares in meeting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to defeat his personal conception of God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, as a preacher, turned the minds of the Mayavadi sannyasis. They were melted by the sweet words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and thus became friendly and spoke to him also in sweet words. Similarly, all preachers will have to meet opponents, but they should not make them more inimical. They are already enemies, and if we talk with them harshly or impolitely, their enmity will merely increase. We should therefore follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as far as possible and try to convince the opposition by quoting from Shastra and presenting the conclusions of the Acharyas. It is in this way that we should try to defeat all the enemies of the Lord. Yeah. So here's how Lord Chaitanya defeated them. First, by making friends with them, giving them the sweet words. So there's 10 lessons that we can learn from this pastime of Lord Chaitanya. First is humility. He approached these Mayavadi sannyasis very humbly, although they were not very friendly to him, although they were quite envious and inimical towards him. Still, he approached them in a very humble way. And that is the second principle, patience and tolerance. That he did not become angry that they are criticizing him. Not just criticizing him in private, but criticizing him publicly. Publicly blaspheming him, but he just tolerated. Because they generally, when someone is harsh towards you, you want to be harsh back towards them. If they're speaking to you in nasty words, you're going to give it back to them in nasty words. But that is not Lord Chaitanya. He was very patient, very tolerant with the sannyasis. And then he'd address their concerns directly. Their concern, why are you not studying Vedanta? He wasn't like diplomatic and just kind of avoided the issue. He directly said why, in a nice way. And then he gives his experience and authority. He says, my spiritual master said this, and when I do it, I feel great ecstasy. He's not just giving theory. He's not just giving some theoretical philosophy. He's saying that actually I experience ecstasy. And the sannyasis could practically see it in him. They could see his effulgence. And then the next point is that he actually knew the philosophy. When it came to debating with them, he knew Shastra, he knew the philosophy, he knew how to defeat them. He wasn't just, they could see actually, he wasn't just a sentimentalist. Actually, he knew this philosophy very well. And then he focused on his core message, which is love of Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. He didn't get allowed to get sidetracked into other topics. And he was very pleasing in his speech. He spoke very palatably to them. And then the seventh point, he adapted his techniques to these people. We see it in different places. Lord Chaitanya preached in different ways. His form of preaching wasn't mechanical. To the Mayavadi sannyasis, he preached one way. To the common people, he would preach a different way. To them, he'd give them philosophy. To the common people, it was just, chanting and dancing. And then he preached by example. The Mayavadi sannyasis could simply see in his personality. They could simply see the love for Krishna in him. And then the final point, divine mercy. Of course, he is the embodiment of divine mercy. But that is the most important thing. At the end of the day, in order to preach, we have to have the mercy. Like I spoke to one devotee in Johannesburg, and he was running quite a successful student program. And I asked him, what is your, what is it that's making your program successful? And he said, he's presenting similar, just basic Krishna consciousness. He said the main thing that makes his program successful is that every year he would go to India and he would go to the samadhis of all the previous acharyas and he would pray, beg for their mercy and really sincerely pray to them for mercy. And he said this was really what's made his program successful. Because at the end of the day, if you get high quality people coming to your program, when you get low quality people, it doesn't matter how much you have all these other things. If they're low quality, there's just nothing you can do. There's just at the end of the day, you just got to get that mercy to get the right people have to come. Yeah, so that is the most important thing. So if you want to get the mercy of the Lord and go home back to Godhead, we can preach this message, and in that way, by giving the mercy to others, we will get the mercy ourselves. And we can go back to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we have any comments or questions? Okay, Granthra Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīmad Prabhupada ki jai. Guru Maharaj ki jai.